Well, from what I can see where I'm at, folks, I'm in western North Dakota, and we have had some freezing rain right around that January. By now, it's thaw off. We see wet highways out there, but as you're going to be traveling up towards the Devil's Lake region, looks like there's still a fair amount of ice. So use some caution as you normally do. Keep an eye on things, but we're looking forward to it, and really some nicer temperatures picking up over the week. For those of you who got Well, my apologies for phone service today. Sometimes you're in places that just don't work as well as others. Now, make sure that you stay tuned though, because as the day progresses, we want to make sure to cover Market Uncovered with Greg Hansen with Hansen Agri Commodities. Lots of questions for him, especially as we are seeing this whole situation develop in the Middle East, and how's that going to affect not only our grain prices, but so many more other implications in the marketplace. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined by Alex Kerr of Kerr Auction Service. Got some highlights on some machinery sales that have been coming up, and also just some general questions about auctions that Alex is going to be able to help us cover and cover very, very well. Peterson Farm Seed is going to be hosting their Cup of Agronomy meeting. Those are going to be March 10th in Morris, Minnesota, March 11th in Millbank, South Dakota, March 19th in Mora, Minnesota. If you haven't had the chance to do this yet, it is a great informal conversation, not just about Peterson Farm Seed, but agronomy in general. What's happening in that specific region when it comes to the farmland, the seed choices that you might want to make, weed problems that might be coming on, or other disease and bugs. So Hey, thanks for listening today, and I apologize for what happens sometimes with audio, but we're coming right along right now, and glad to have you here, as well as glad to have with us Greg Hansen. We do the Market Uncovered report every Friday at 1:20 p.m. Greg, I've got a bunch of listener questions for you. One of them starts with, how much grain do you think is still on the farm of old crop that needs to be priced? Um, I've heard a number maybe somewhere around 25% for corn and wheat. What are your thoughts?
I think it's much higher than that, especially
Okay.
on the corn and the wheat side. It is a lot. I think the farmer's been
Okay.
good about selling beans. Beans went to town. He used the bean rally in Ocnove to price and get cash to pay fall things. We had, beans kind of led the rally to begin with. He was pricing beans that were left in town to cover rent because the bridge payment wasn't here in time. Corn's been lagging behind the whole time. So we never really got that
Mm-hmm.
summer rally. So there wasn't much corn sold going into harvest. And corn until now hasn't rallied with the bean market. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, there's some guys that have been pricing some corn, but I think when you look at the percentage, it's a big, big percentage of corn is on price. And that's been part of the reason that it's taken till now for this corn market to rally. And really, we're not rallying on our fundamentals. We're rallying the last couple of days. This is all about war premium.
Well, that leads to that next question. Okay, so the whole situation with Iran, what is that going to do to our markets? And do you even want to start talking about like fuel as a commodity or anything like that?
Well, I mean, we've seen what it's done. I mean, we're following crude. Corn and beans are an energy, so we're going to follow crude. Um, it's also going to be affecting our nitrogen prices. So if you don't have your nitrogen booked, there's some places won't sell it to you, is what I've been told. Is it going to change acre rotation? That's a good question. I think in the heart of the corn belt, the vast majority of the urea and anhydrous, I mean, your nitrogen was bought. People have been telling everyone since last August, get your nitrogen covered because it's not going to get any cheaper. It's only going to go up. So I think there's a lot of it in the ground already. A lot of it's bought for pre-spring. I think there's not much that needs to get covered. But when you get to the away from the heart of the corn and the bean belt and get to the fringe areas, it might be an issue. I've been hearing down in the Delta, we're actively planting right now, and the chatter is we're losing rice and cotton acres because of nitrogen costs to soybeans.
Yes.
Are we going
Yeah,
to see
I
it
think you're
around
right.
here? It really depends on, did you get your end covered or not?
Hmm.
If you don't have your end covered, maybe if you were going to plant corn, maybe you decide on wheat. I mean, I think insurance for some guys is going to say soybeans. I think it's all up in the air, but I also think that it's not necessarily the heart of the corn belt that's going to be changing. It's going to be, and whether it's nitrogen price or whether it was the bean rally last week and good insurance values, it doesn't feel like we switched a whole lot in the heart of the corn belt. It might be the fringe areas where there's a little switching, but the fringe areas don't necessarily have the yield, so maybe it all washes through. The one
Sure.
thing to remember though, the March 31st report, whatever the farmer is thinking this week, that's the number we're getting in 3-4 weeks.
You know, when you say that about farmer numbers, after what happened last fall, when that sudden increase in corn bushels showed up, what I've been hearing from farmers is they have no more faith in mass, and in fact, the numbers are probably going to get worse because people don't want to accurately report because they don't believe they're being heard. Have you heard the same situation?
I've been people arguing about NAS for as long as I've been in the grain business. It just seems like it doesn't get any. The numbers get bigger, so the variance gets bigger, the bushel get bigger.
Yep.
It's just, I've had it at some of my local producer meetings. I've had the Minnesota head of the Minnesota Stats Service come twice, and I've basically said, explain to me how you do a production report for the state yields. Explain to me how you do the quarterly stocks reports for the state yields on what's on farm, what's on and considered in the elevator. Tell us how you do the weekly conditions report. We always say you don't know what you're talking about and you're wrong, so tell us how you do it. So I understand the process. I don't
Mm-hmm.
always agree with their conclusions, but the process makes sense. It's some of it's garbage in, garbage out. If farmers are giving bad numbers, they can account for a little bit of that. They'll do, like on the production side, they will do field counts. They've got their own little test plots they check. They can tell if someone's kind of blowing smoke and giving a yield too big, too small. So they can
Sure.
account for some of that. But it's here again. If the farmer's giving them bad numbers, it's going to be bad numbers.
Right. Absolutely the truth there. Um, One last thing that was brought up with this whole U.S. Mexico Canada agreement, there's a rumor out there that it's going to be split up, and that's going to change drastically. Any prognostications on what you think that implication might be for our grain markets?
Well, it really depends on the market. If you're a rice farmer, you're probably all for it down in
Mm-hmm.
the south. But like for us, um, Mexico buys a lot of corn.
Mm-hmm.
We need that, to feed their livestock industry, and their birds and their hogs. We need that market. That would put potentially a crimp in selling corn to Mexico. From the
Okay.
beef end, I mean, that border's been closed for a year, but think of the beef that should be coming back up here. That could put a crimp on that. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about the Canadian end. Yeah, maybe it helps the dairy sector some here in the U.S., but we bring a lot of fertilizer down from Canada, and we ship while they bring fertilizer down, those trucks don't go back empty. I have personally, when I was in the grain elevator business, sold corn to Canadians, whether it was for whiskey or whether it was for hogs for feed. And I know you'll see trucks loading at the bean plants, taking soy meal back up to all those hogs in that Brandon and Manitoba area. So, those trucks aren't going one way, they're going both ways loaded. That will put a crimp in some of that trade, is my fear.
Okay.
It just depends on how it gets hammered out. But I say some people argue that this whole thing's been a better deal maybe for Mexico than it was for the US or for Canada. We can argue till we're blue in the face about that. I look at it from the ag side, and it's allowed. I think for the commodities that we handle, I think it's to our advantage to have this deal.
Well, that is good to know, and we want to weigh in on those types of things every Friday when Greg joins us for Market Uncovered right here at 1:20 with Greg Hansen of Hansen Agri Commodities. Greg, if you're not on air, how would people find you otherwise?
Well, you can always give me a call at 507-338-6433. You can check out our website at hansen-ag.com, or you can go on Facebook and look for Hansen Agri Commodities.
Thanks, Greg. All right, folks, we are going to pick up the news right here at the bottom of the hour, and then we'll be back with Alex Kerr for Action Service. He gave me a bunch of new terms I learned this morning. Now I'm going to make him define them. Be right back. Hey, are you planning a space? Hey, are you planning a new steel, commercial, or ag building? Well, whether it's for your business, your farm, or anything else, for more than 20 years, farmers across the region have trusted Anderco Enterprises of Fargo. Their reputation is built on experience, reliability, and results that really stand the test of time. Want a building to last? Trust Anderco Enterprises. You can reach them at andercoenterprises.com or call 701-277-7078. Got a great guest joining us today, Alex Kerr Auction out of Mount Sterling, Illinois. And so, Alex, let me just ask this. In the last couple months of auctions that you've been having, is there a particular trend or highlight that you are noticing, first and foremost, that you want to share with listeners today?
The equipment just keeps getting stronger. If you are on the fence about buying something, I would buy it rather than waiting. The supply just keeps getting less and less. The dealers aren't selling new, so you don't get the trade-ins. And even if corn goes down, it'll still keep going up.
As the equipment prices will still keep going up, is what you're saying?
Yeah, just because there's not enough supply. If anything, if corn would drop $1 and all the new orders got canceled, the used would actually come up even more.
Ooh, wow. Now, you and I had a conversation a little bit earlier today, and recently you did a video that I caught on media talking about being careful where you buy, because sometimes you can find some surprises. Now, what are some of the reasons for that statement, if you will? I mean, we don't want to name names or any specifics, but what are some watch-outs you can think of?
Well, so when you buy something in your home area, you always oh boy, them guys are struggling right now, and they may have bills that are past due, or they may owe the bank. And so when you buy a used tractor from them, you're going to do your own due diligence, and to ask the right questions. Is this free and clear of lien? And you have to go get people to release their UCCs. The problem is now with Facebook, people just advertise this stuff randomly all across the country, and a guy a state and a half away will click, "Are you interested?" and go and think, boy, this is a great buy. And they don't know anything about the environment where it's coming from. Think, boy, this is a good farm-owned piece. It's going to be higher quality. We're buying it direct off the farmer. We don't have a dealer, a jockey, or an auctioneer in between us. They write the guy a check. They haul the tractor home. And then it goes into a deer dealer for service, or it goes to a Case IH dealer and gets financed. All of a sudden you find out, hey, this thing's still financed over here. The guy took your money, never paid it off, or cleared the lien, and some other finance company actually owns it. You don't. You're 100% out that money. There is no recourse. There is no asking for forgiveness. Whoever holds the UCC on that serial number has the right to come pick it up and take it.
Whoa.
So when we do an auction, we have a rule that anything under $10,000, we won't waste our time running the UCC. If we get burnt, one out of every 200 tractors we sell, we'll write the check and make it right with the buyer. Anything above, we try to do our best to make sure that we're clearing the liens for the buyer, because now I'm in between the seller and the buyer. So you know who they're going to come after? Me.
Mm-hmm.
If you bought that, you're going to be like, well, I wrote you the check. You've got to make this right. If I paid out the wrong entity, they're coming back to me.
Sure, absolutely.
So, and the real trick is Deere is a master at this. They don't lose, but they cross-collateralize their pieces. So you can make the last payment on the tractor, but if the guy had an outstanding seed bill from the year before that was supposedly 0% on, whatever brand of seed financed it through John Deere, they still have a lien against that serial number, and they won't release it until the whole thing's paid off.
Sure, absolutely. That's a new term for me, that cross-collateralization.
The term you asked me this morning was cross-collateralization. Deere cross-collateralizes all their pieces. So you can have a farmer that's got 3 tractors all financed with Deere. You have to get written permission from them to sell one of them and clear it off. And they're going to want the proceeds of anything over possibly go to the other pieces if they're not in good standing.
Is that a new thing, Alex? Have they been doing that for very long? Or anybody else for that matter?
I don't know who else does it. We just encounter them the most in the business that we're in.
Okay. There's
and I wouldn't say
another item.
They survived the 80s for a reason.
Okay, that's a good point. There's another term that you called out this morning, terminated versus unterminated liens. Can you tell me the difference, what those mean?
So when it would be a terrible pain for everyone in the ag industry if tractors had a title, but they don't.
Right.
And unfortunately now there's $750,000 tractors out there with money financed against them, and we have to do this giant paper trail to find where the UCC was filed. In Arkansas, it's county by county, entity by entity. And so if a farm farms under an LLC or under an S Corp or under a personal guarantee individual, you're still having to trace all those down to find who to pay off. And when you get back a stack on this, say this company or this farmer, they'll be, this UCC was terminated, which means that it was paid off and they released their lien on that piece.
Okay.
Or this UCC is still active and they may not have that piece.
Oh,
that's bad.
Sure. That's bad. Yeah. It's always enlightening to hear what's going on in the auction world. You bring a very different perspective, which I tremendously appreciate, Alex. You've got some upcoming sales. If I were to take a little look-see at your website, I see you have one that's ending next week, Tuesday, I believe it is. That's an online only for McLeansboro. You then also have a farm retirement auction coming up on March 17th. That's the end date. And then you have a consignment sale on March 19th, as well as one more retirement sale on March 30th. Any highlights about those upcoming sales? Any particular items you'd like to focus on?
So the McLeansboro one is an online only of nothing but American-built stuff, like pallet forks and mini skid snow pushers and tables and welding tables and feed bunks. And we'll arrange shipping and stuff for you. But we did a sale at that location in December, and we had a tremendous amount of people asking if they could just buy that stuff. That stuff, the cheapest way to buy it is at auction, when one of those companies just brings you a semi-load and says sell it.
Wow, okay.
So we're doing that sale of nothing but that stuff. It's 100 lots of just one company's stuff. They're built in Indiana, and you can tell a difference between it and we saw a lot of the Chinese shipping container loads of stuff, and the stuff out in Indiana is decent stuff. So that's that sale. Then we've got a nice farm retirement in Palmyra, Missouri, that's got some really classic older four-wheel drives, Alice Chalmers, some pretty good hay equipment, and some project equipment. Like there's a 9660 that's got a hole in the engine block, so that should be cheap. Our home consignment sale in Mount Sterling, Illinois, has got a variety of stuff. It'll have anywhere from a $500,000 sprayer, 9 RXs to a Kinsey planter that's 1631 bulk fill that's only got 2,600 acres on a 2023. And then we go down into, we've got a real small farm retirement sale on that. The guy farmed under 200 acres. Little end wheel drill and 3-point, real nice stuff that never set out of the shed. 14-foot disc. Beautiful little small older stuff. Then we go to Dormeyer's and their retirement. They switched most of their acres to hay, which is odd for this area, but they have got 2 big square balers, 1 small square baler with accumulator, and a round baler. Pretty clean, nice tractors. They've got a semi-truck and a 26-foot dump trailer, a 1688 case combine. It's just the typical farm retirement sale. They still grain farm some, but now their grain farm stuff is big. Now they have 6-row Kinsey planter, 15-foot no-till drill.
You got some pretty spectacular items that are coming up. For folks who want to find you, they can go to kerrauction.com, but also you have an app, and they can download the app, and I believe that helps them avoid bidder's fees, correct?
If they do it through our site, so they can go to the website and register on a computer, and they can bid for free there also. You know, we call it zero buyer penalty. A premium is what you win when you go to the state fair and get a blue ribbon. The penalty is what happens when you buy something off the wrong auction company.
Well, you help folks understand that better than most. So, Alex, thanks for hopping on today and filling us in on some of the things that are happening in the auction world. Much appreciated.
Well, I thought maybe you'd want to touch on the biggest news in the auction world. That the biggest auction company in the world just bought what was the biggest online auction in the U.S.
You know, I know you and I had talked about that, and I hadn't shared anything in that regards. And you're talking about Ritchie Brothers purchasing Big Iron Auction. And I know that when I asked you about it, you said that changes the tide just a little bit in the fact that, you know, there's not a lot of independents left out there like yourself, but there's some corporates, and they might not give the same kind and family focus that you might with a service like yourself.
Right. Well, I mean, you might want Ritchie Brothers to purchase ad space, so we can't go down how bad my opinion of that versus the radio station. But I believe that we bring a personal touch to when we sell a farm retirement versus a publicly traded entity.
Sure. Because you want to share that story. You want to prioritize which items should be sold, how they should be sold, in order to make sure that it's a great sale for your seller, as well as a good experience for your buyers.
Bridgette, thank you for having me.
Alex, you're wonderful as always. Much appreciate your time. All right, as we wrap up the last few minutes here, folks, A couple of things I wanted to share with you. One is this, that right now, computer AI is getting to be much more high tech than you might have thought at the rodeo. There's some pretty big names in technology that bring in real-time artificial intelligence and insights to the rodeo circuit. Teton Ridge has partnered up with Palantir as well as NVIDIA, and they're going to bring real-time analytics to a rodeo arena. So according to what's going to be happening in this partnership, there will be computing hardware alongside the data platforms that allow rider insights during the event. Machine vision is going to be analyzing animal and rider movements like kick, spin, speed, and intensity. And that helps to explain results in broadcasts, but it also gives athletes a new tool to study their results and prepare for the competition. These systems are going to track the skeletal joints of both rider and animal in real time. And it's going to transform what was previously instinct into measurable components. And that really, it will illustrate why a ride was easier or more difficult. It even can show where a rider almost lost control or where they were successful. Now, everyone thought that when we got to breakaway roping or barrel racing, and when the horse broke the eye, the electric eye, and it started the timer, that was a big step upwards. Now it's going even faster and more furiously. If you didn't hear it earlier, Minnesota Department of Ag is accepting applications for the Beginning Farmer Equipment and Infrastructure Grant. This is a program established by the state legislature, and it supports farmers by helping them access essential equipment and invest in on-farm infrastructure. The full grant eligibility requirements, application details, and more are available online at Minnesota Department of Ag's Beginning Farmer Equipment and Infrastructure Grant webpage. The applications are due by 4 o'clock on Thursday, March 26th. And North Dakota Stockmen's Association, Stockmen's Foundation actually, has their new scholarship deadlines, and they're approaching rather quickly. There are 12 different scholarships that are going to be offered. Find out all of the scholarship details. You want to go to the North Dakota Stockman Foundation's website and look for the endowments, the legacy, and so many others in which to apply. Folks, thanks for being here today. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your Friday. May the weather improve and you enjoy the weekend. See you next week.